And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. The word that's used for naked is arumim. Arumim is plural because it's they. You know, the storyteller is just saying this. The man and his woman were arumim. And then he says, now the serpent was more subtle, this is the English translation, was more subtle than any beast of the field which the eternal God had made. But the Hebrew word for subtle is arum. So the people who are hearing this story are hearing a whole other story than that which we hear when it's told in English. Because when it's told in English, we don't get any linkage between the serpent in Hebrew here is nachash, between the nachash and the people. But there's some kind of hookup. What is this hookup? What is this word? The serpent was more arum than any beast of the field. What? More naked? More open? And he said to the woman, so, God has said that you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. This is so psychologically sound. I mean, he doesn't say, so I heard you can't eat of that tree. No, he says, so you can't eat all the trees you can't eat. Yeah. And the woman said to the serpent, we can eat of the fruit of the tree. But the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat of it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Now this is very interesting. First of all, it proves the notion that they were together side by side. Because otherwise, she wasn't there yet to hear God say that. And we've got no indication that the man told her this. So the premise is they both heard this. No, she says, you shall not eat of it, the tree in the midst of the garden, nor shall you touch it. Did God say you shouldn't touch it? So first the Nachash exaggerates, and then she exaggerates. Everybody's hedging around here. And the serpent says to the woman, you shall not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, you shall be as God, knowing good and evil. Now this is really interesting because this is a description of a consciousness that is called godly, which apparently was lacking to the man and the woman in the Garden of Eden. If you don't know good and evil, you don't know distinctions. What is the land of distinctions? The land of distinctions is this level of consciousness. This level where we walk around is the land of distinctions. Every light has its shadow. Every up has its down. Every hard has its soft. Every easy has its difficult. You know, this is the land of distinctions. Good and evil is just a way of indicating all possible distinctions. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food is it tastes good, feels good. It's a physical positive. And that it was pleasant to the eyes is emotional. It's delightful. Delightful. Look at this tree. And desired to make one wise. Whoa. She ate. And she gave also to her husband, literally to her man with her, and he ate. Hey, honey. Hungry? Why? What do you have in mind? Well, there's this fruit. Oh, no. We were told not to eat that fruit. No. She eats. She gives it to him. He eats. They go, uh-oh. The eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were arumim. They knew that they were, it's translated naked. But there is some kind of link up between the consciousness of the nachash, the consciousness of the serpent and the consciousness that they had awakened to. The Nachash was the only Arum creature around until the man and woman ate of the Aruming fruit, and then they are Arum. What a marvelous thing. If you eat of this tree, you'll be like God. Oh. I mean, can you imagine saying, no, thank you? And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. What was the fruit they ate? Where possibly do you see any indication that it's an apple? Other than the fact that apples don't grow in that part of the world. One of the things I love about this is that it's a way of exposing some of the stories that we just have accepted as part of what it is. And we see it even though it's not there. People read this story and they're still sure it's an apple. The story tells us what kind of fruit it is. It just told us. There's only one kind of tree mentioned. Fig. Think about the fig. This is very, I hope you guys are over age, because the fig can't be talked about in a mix, with people too young. Has anybody had a fig tree? You take figs, those ripe figs, when you take them off and you bite into it and you look into that fruit, it's embarrassing. It's gorgeous. Do you know? This is a deeply sexual fruit. This is a deeply sexual story. And they heard the voice of the eternal God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the eternal God among the trees. Actually, the Hebrew says, betoch eitz hagan, in the midst of the tree of the garden. And the eternal God called to the Adam and said to him, Ayaka, where are you? It's great. It's great. Because whatever your conception of God is, and this is really a mythical, anthropomorphic vision of God. But wouldn't God know where he is? There's a Hasidic statement. This is from 18th century teachers. God says to every person, just as God said to Adam, where are you? Where are you now in the life that you've been living? Where are you is like a wake-up call. And the man said, I heard your voice in the garden and I was afraid because I was a roam, because I was naked. It's got to be more than just naked. Like the people who are telling this story are not namby-pamby people. They're people who live in communal settings. Just to be without one's clothes is just not that big of a deal. I was afraid because I was a roam and I hid myself. And God said, who told you that you were a roam? Translate what? Who told you that you were naked? Who told you that you were awake? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat? Again, God is playing. This is much more playful. If you really think about what's been done to this story and what's been done to us in the name of the story, this story is playful. And the man said, this is just perfect. God says, did you eat of the tree? And the man says, the woman who you gave me, it's not my fault. And the eternal God turns to the woman and says, so what have you done? And the woman said, the serpent. The serpent beguiled me and I ate. And the eternal God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly. Tradition is that the middle word of the whole Torah, of the 5 books of the Torah scroll, happens to be the word gachon, belly. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. So apparently, the Nachash didn't look like a snake before. So one might imagine, snakes, a snake is one of the most incredible beings. A snake scares us, a snake in the grass. But a snake is also a symbol of the Ouroboros. The symbol of the snake with its tail in its mouth, the circle? The snake is a symbol of eternality, of eternal life. The snake, what do you call it? Not molts. Molts. It sheds its skin, it walks out of its skin, and it's new. And what ancient peoples thought was that's reborn. Like the snake holds the secret of rebirth. And what else is the snake? The snake is the caduceus. The snake is on the symbol of healing of the American Medical Association. So it's there with us all the time. The snake is an incredible symbol. It's also a phallic symbol. So what is going on here? There's no other animal that could serve the function of this. And what's the question it answers? How come the snake doesn't have any feet? Here's why. Snake used to have feet, because apparently, we have these pictures where the snake's twining around the tree, offering. It couldn't be. Because according to the myth, before this, the snake was not that. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise its heel. This is simply describing the situation that the people discover themselves in with respect to snakes. And to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply the pain of your childbearing. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. This needs white out, the last couple of words. I think there are a couple words missing, actually. He shall think he rules over you. And to the man he says, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake, in sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life, thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And here's the biggest clue and the biggest sadness for me in the normal translation of this. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. Okay. In Hebrew, the word is chava. Chava is a form of the verb chaya, which means living thing, which is a form of chai, which is life. Okay. Get this with the story. We're in the garden. We're told we can eat of all the trees of the garden except for the knowledge of good and evil. Then somebody who is arum and wants us to be arum, or gives us the choice of being arum, says, hey, take a look at the tree. Look at this fruit. The woman looks at it, has to be the woman. And I'll tell you why, but it's only a woman's consciousness who could have done this. The woman looks at it and sees that it's good on all levels. It's good physically, emotionally, and mentally, which are the levels of this, our life. And she eats and she gives it to her husband, and their eyes are open. Now, one would expect that the man would turn to his wife and say, your name is Mud. If the story is as we've thought it's been, wouldn't he would not turn to her and say, therefore your name is Life. That's what he names her. He says, your name is Life because you're the mother of all the living, which is to say, your act of taking that